Jon Davison.
We are speaking with Yes vocalist Jon Davison. They are currently on their 50th anniversary tour. Yes 50, celebrating 50 years of Yes. And Jon, absolute pleasure talking to you.
Well, you too, Mitch. How you doing?
Good. And it is
I'm
so...
just stepping out of the tour bus here.
Oh, good.
We're at Foxwoods Casino in Connecticut. We have a day off. And I like to just do a little walk around here. It's really pretty. So I'll do that while we're doing the interview.
A good walk and talk. So talk to me about this Yes 50 tour. Now, the dates run till the end of July. Are we looking at putting out more dates in the fall, or is this sort of, we're done for this year and we'll talk to you in 2019?
Yeah, we've kind of left it with the latter. So we're not sure if we're going to do much work with the rest of this year, within the rest of this year. And that's all I really know right now. I do know that everyone's getting excited to write a new album. So I imagine that the remaining part of this year will be wrapped up with doing all of that.
And that I'm looking forward to. You know, when you joined the band, the members had gone on record as saying that you added a whole fresh dimension and they loved writing with you. Talk to me about that first album, Heaven and Earth, and where do you sort of see a next new album going? So we'll start off with Heaven and Earth. What was that like? You know, these guys had this long storied career, pedigree that you couldn't, deny. And here's the new kid, for the lack of a better word, sitting down to write with them. What was that experience like for you?
Exhilarating. Yeah, it was great. And I got to get to know each member so much better just with all the hang time. I would visit Steve and him and I would write one-on-one kind of thing and the same for all the members. And so that was a really special time to sort of step back from the touring pace of things and just spend time together as friends, listen to music, write music. It became a lifestyle. That was really, really rewarding.
Yeah, and I have a fun connection to that album as well, is that the guy who mastered it, Mayor Applebaum, is a personal friend of mine. So we'll talk about that.
Oh, yeah, he's great.
Isn't he fantastic? I love that guy.
Mm-hmm.
He did some work for me mastering some stuff I had to get done. You also had Roy Thomas Baker produced the album, and of course Roy has done all kinds of great stuff. He's done some Cheap Trick albums and some Queen albums and all. For you coming in, and I know the word's not going to be appropriate, but I'll use it anyway, as a rookie in this context of being in Yes, what was it like to work with a producer like Roy, who has this career and vision of what music should be and could be? Do you learn from him? Did you watch him, or did you just sort of have no involvement?
No, I was very much involved and could, as you say, really watch him in the studio and just try to learn from a master, someone that's been, that's very accomplished, that has gone through so much successful experience in the field. So I did just that. I just really analyzed him and watched him and tried to stay out of his way when that was appropriate.
And it was. So talk to me in terms of being the vocalist in a band like Yes. Do you still have aspirations to do your own solo material and speak outside and still do, Glass Hammer or Sky Cries Mary and that kind of stuff? Or right now is your sole focus just to be the vocalist of Yes?
Well, one thing I've learned, Mitch, is never step in front of the muse. So you don't want to direct, a creative flow or lack of it by saying, I want to do this. You just, go with the inspirational flow. So I'm always open to working with anyone at any time if the creativity is happening.
Right. And so what prompts the creativity? Is it writing a great song? Is it a great musical idea? What sort of gets you in that mood to create?
A strong cup of coffee in the morning.
Right. That's.
But in addition to that, of course, it's a whole lifestyle thing. So I like to have my little ritual, wake up and have coffee and pick up the guitar and just kind of like let the morning, engulf you. So the inspiration comes from anything and everything.
It really, really does. I want to ask you about the art of interviewing. And I'll explain. You told me off the record that you're not very good at doing this, but I think you're doing great. But what is it about an interview that sort of gets you, I don't know, stressed out, or what is it that makes you uncomfortable? Because it's a great way to say who you are, and what you're doing.
Yeah, I generally get cornered with the same questions that
Which
I've
are?
always gotten. So what was it like when you got the call?
Right.
And, just things I've answered 1,000 times. So if there's any hesitancy on my part, it's just because I've told the story so many times. So
Right.
that's kind of a...
Right, I get that.
But the right interviewer, as you are, you're asking me, new questions. And so it makes the interview run much more smoothly.
Well, okay, let me take you up on that because listen, when you talk about a band like Yes or Foreigner or Kiss or Metallica or whoever it is, there are those you must ask kind of questions, And right now we're talking about the tour and new music. That's sort of you have to ask that. But if you had your way, what is something that a fan listening in should know about you that you haven't talked about, or what is a subject that you want to talk about? Because that I find that interesting. Like today I was speaking with Lou Gramm, and of course everybody asks him about the Double Vision album and Head Games, but we spoke about this Mr. Moonlight album. What is something that you would like to talk about that maybe fans don't know about you? And by the way, this is all going to go on air. We're going live with this.
I'm a pretty private person, Mitch.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's hard to answer.
Okay, well then let me ask you this then. Before you got
Okay.
the Yes gig, you were doing Glass Hammer. You were doing Sky Cries Mary. Talk to me about the challenges of getting an original band up and running, or having a band out there doing and getting discovered. Because it's easy to join Yes. I mean, they have 50 years of history. You know they're going to get booked. You know they're going to have interviews lined up. You know there's going to be a record deal down the road. Talk to me about being outside of that scope. What was it like trying to get noticed in today's world, today's marketplace, today's record, what were some of the challenges you faced in those bands?
Well, not to put a damper on the question, but when I was in Sky Cries Mary in the 90s, the whole industry was completely different. It was a different dynamic than if we were a young band today struggling to be recognized. It was just a different world. And with Glass Hammer, they had already been going on. They have a huge discography, and I think they started in the early 90s. And so I came into something that was already, a well-oiled machine. So I'm sorry, I can't really accurately answer that due to lack of experience, I guess you'd say.
So okay, so then you had Glass Hammer that had this experience. You had Yes that had this experience. Where do you fall in terms of wanting to do your own thing? Is that something that's important to you to go out there and be Jon Davison, solo artist, or guy in this band that I started myself? Or are you comfortable being the guy that comes in and helps out or takes over for an established band?
Yeah, it's kind of both. As a vocalist, I'm more content just kind of stepping in and fitting into the vocal tapestry of Yes, and that there's always three there's a harmony of three voices going. And due to the nature of my voice, that's a God-given gift in the sense that I have the high register. I'm not saying, I'm not tooting my own horn saying I'm an amazing singer, but there is a blessing that I was built for this type of singing, just in terms of physicality. So I have found an identity as a vocalist, an appropriate identity in the context, in the world of Yes. Doing my own thing, I have found, honestly, I'm just being very candid, but I found that's been a bit more of a struggle to find my identity as a vocalist in original music outside that sort of symphonic quality that's in Yes. I've yet to, of course, I've had that in Glass Hammer, but I mean, if I was to just go and do my own thing purely, like a solo record, quote unquote, I would find it interesting because when I sit and pick up a guitar and play, a lot of times it's outside the context of Yes, even though progressive rock in general and Yes music is very broad from where it derives inspiration. It's not necessarily, it's a whole new identity that I'm still working on to develop. And I would be just as excited being the guitar player or bass player in a role, I mean, that kind of role in a new band, and work with other singers. And then I could do high harmony stuff. I can always add that later, but it wouldn't really be Jon Davison from Yes, here's the solo record. I'm much more interested in the context of prog music to work with like-minded musicians that are in that genre. And collaborative effort is the most exciting for me. And that's where I found my role so far. Right. But then again, as an instrumentalist, I would like to do my own record, but working with other singers and not so much having it be about me as the lead vocalist, but as a collaborator and instrumentalist. That was a very long-winded answer. I hope that makes sense.
No, that was a great answer. So then let me take you back to we were talking about the Heaven and Earth album. When you come in to record that, does the band come to you and say, "Hey, listen, we've had these classic vocalists, we've had this sound, go study them, listen to them, and come and be that guy," or did you have a certain freedom to be Jon? Did you have to fit into a mold?
Which Jon?
Right. No, not Anderson, Davison. Did you have a chance to be you, or did they say, "Listen, we had a Jon, go be that," right? Did you have a freedom to do your own thing within the music, or were you confined, for the lack of a better word, to a box where this is what Yes sounds like, now you go figure out how to sound like this?
No, it wasn't anything spoken like that or even felt. There wasn't that kind of intention because, again, I was collaborating with the other members. And like my previous answer, I was making the point that, in the context of Yes or working with other musicians, the music tends to naturally fall into what is the collective intention, the aim, the goal of, in this case, a Yes record. So, had I just come with my own songs, they might have said, well, this isn't quite the direction we want to go in, or it doesn't have a Yes essence, as I was saying earlier, that, I write different types of music, or when I just pick up a guitar, it comes out a bit differently and explores other genres. So again, it's with Heaven and Earth, it was a collaboration. So we were pretty on point with where we wanted to go with it.
Right. So let me ask you about that. When you come into a band like Yes, and they've been around for all these years, are you surprised that they welcomed you with such open arms and said, "Hey, we want you to write on the record"? Because it could have been very easy for them to say, "Hey, we're the leaders here, we're the boss. You just go, we'll tell you when to wag the tail." Are you surprised how welcoming they were and how open they were to have your input?
Yeah, I was. I very much was. And then, just getting to know them a bit better, I could see that that's really what's always kept Yes thriving is, all the different members that have been in Yes have come in and blended in a unique way and have added in their own special way. So, Yes evolves that way. That's a very healthy thing.
It really is. And it makes for better music, because when you have everybody that feels vested into the project, it's certainly a lot better than, well, we're the boss here and you're just going to do what we tell you. Steve, how?
Yeah, because really, ultimately, it's about the music, and that's what I like. They always put the music first, beyond egos or any stupid, games that some might play. It's just about, well, this is a band today. We're 5 members. Let's see how the music sounds with this unique blend.
Yeah, and that's what I like about the band is that it doesn't seem to be politicized. At least when they're making a new album, it's whoever's in the band now gets a voice. I just want to quickly talk about Steve Howe, just one of these, lack of a better word, genius musicians. I mean, just he absolutely phenomenal at what he does. What was that like for you that first time you got to meet him and working with him now and being on stage and you get to look over your shoulder and there he is? Um, Talk to me a little bit about
Now
Steve.
that's one of those questions I've
Answered before.
mentioned before
Right.
that I've had to answer many times, but that's okay because it's nonetheless, to his credit, an important question to answer because, I mean, obviously it goes without saying he's a genius, and to grow up listening to a genius that you admire so greatly and then to be, invited into his thing it's just really surreal, but it also brings out the best in you, and then you realize your true potential when you're around such magnetic personalities,
Right.
such as Steve.
Yeah, he really is a
How's
great.
that? I tried to answer it differently than I
You
usually
normally
have.
do. Yeah, listen, you have to have there is a certain stock quality to doing interviews, right? Where you have to have there's some points you have to hit because a fan will write you and
Mm-hmm.
say, "How dare you interview Gene Simmons and not ask about Paul Stanley?" It's like, well, hey, you got to do what you got to do.
True.
Um, Talk to me if you can then. Maybe this has been asked before, but about the audition process. Did you have to sit there in sort of a cattle call and sell your wares? Or what was that like sort of getting into the band and them coming to you? Was it more organic or was it more sort of like, well, you're one of 10 and we'll see?
No, I just simply got a call and they said, we have a tour that's already booked in 6 weeks in Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Indonesia, and we need you to sing for the band. I mean, that was it. And I said, well, surely there's an audition. And they said, there's not going to be one. So I didn't have to contend with any other singer on any level. I just stepped in and, there we went. And I don't even think I ever got an official, outstretched hand saying, let's shake on it. You're in the band. I mean, it was just, hey, we'll see you in the summer. See you in a couple months.
Wow, that's remarkable. That's a remarkable story.
Yeah.
Nobody's done that for me. Um, now, of course, the band is on, as we said, this 50th anniversary tour. And of course, the band is not going to sort of go on forever. Where do you sort of see yourself? What's sort of your 10-year plan? Like once the band retires or the band ceases to exist, do you have this desire to keep the music of Yes going? Do you sort of look around and say, uh-oh, what now? How have you sort of foreseen the next 10 years playing out for you?
No, I absolutely envision the Yes music going on, certainly. And I'll do anything I can, not to propel my own ego, but just because that's the nature of Yes music. Yes 50 isn't just a testament to the past and everything that's happened up to this point. It's also a confirmation that if Yes music can transcend so much, all the changes through the decades, and last 50 years, well, why not another 50 years? It's a confirmation of that. Why not another 100 years, so on and so forth? And even members of Yes, past and present, have always said Yes music could potentially go on forever. And why not? I mean, look at the great classical works that are timeless.
Yeah.
I think Yes has that same kind of quality. And that's something I want to say to, fans that are so divided now. That's the worst thing about all of this. It's not even members in Yes and members in ARW. It's the fans that bicker, that fight. That it's sad because, ultimately this music isn't about any one personality. music's from a higher source. It's an inspiration. And these conduits of this inspiration, need to be acknowledged for, the great work that they brought to the public. But the music has to go on even without the personality. We would think it's an absurd notion today, looking back 100 years, people, at the time Mozart passed, they said, oh, we'll never go see a concerto of his work because he's no longer there to conduct it. That would be ridiculous to our standards today. But people are doing that in essence with all the bickering among the fans. And I hope Jon Anderson has a long life ahead of him. And I'd love to sing with him someday. And he's a hero of mine. But, his fans, not him, but his fans think that this music can't exist or be performed if he's not doing it. And that's just not so accurate, because it's more about the music and less about the personality. But it's hard for people to see that now because we're too close to the origin of Yes. We're only within 50 years. But as time goes on, people more and more will naturally embrace this idea that the music can go on forever. And it's not ultimately about the ego or personality. It's about the timeless music.
Yeah, see, and I agree with that. And in fact, I was having that conversation earlier with Lou Gramm. There is a Beethoven-esque quality to what all these bands have done. Yes, Rolling Stones, Beatles, Kiss, Aerosmith. People in 21 are going to be listening to this stuff. And of course, there won't be any original members left by then. And who cares? If
Right.
If Roundabout or Rock and Roll All Night or Walk This Way float your boat, well, let it float your boat, and just be glad that it's there. And so you're very, very right about that, and there you go. So, John, see, we did it. We got to 20 minutes. That was great. It's fabulous.
We had a few lofty concepts going about there, but it's nonetheless true. And I hope people are at least receptive to some of the things I said today. I want everybody to get along. And the music is so inspiring and it can be so healing. And, the lyrics are about high vibration, go on. And then there's just the complete opposite. There's just ugliness on the internet. It's just so unfortunate for everybody.
Yeah, I think the most important thing as a rock star or as a performer is to just not read the internet. Get on stage, do the stuff, because there's going to be 10,000 people in that audience that just don't really care what is being said on Facebook, and that's the way it should be.
Yeah. I'm not even actively on Facebook. I have a musicians page that a third party kind of manages, and as people will notice, it's sort of crumbling.
Right.
Because I'm just not putting that much into it, because I'm just kind of discouraged with the mode of behavior online. And I don't even want to have a Facebook. And I'm just going to say that to all the naysayers out there, that I'm not reading all your criticisms. I'm oblivious to them. I might hear on the periphery that, somebody said something, but I never ask. I never want to know the details. So it's an act of futility to put me down any further, because I'm not even reading it.
Yeah, and nor should you.
High vibration, go on.
Absolutely. John, great pleasure today. Thank you so, so much.
You're welcome, Mitch.
And hopefully we'll get to do this again soon, and would love to see you in Montreal shortly. Okay,
cool. Yeah, great talking to you.
Yep. Cheers. Thank you, John. Let me turn off.
Are we off the record now?
You're listening to Rock Talk with Mitch LaFon. Rock Talk.